Well, the remaining five candidates in the Liberal leadership race have submitted their final deposit. They've stated their intentions to go all the way, and now March 9th is the date where the Liberals will choose the next Prime Minister of Canada and their new leader. The hopefuls are going to participate in a French and English debates. Those will come up next week. Ryan Tumilty is here, political reporter with the Toronto Star, to set us up for all this. Good morning.
Good morning.
How do you think this whole race has evolved since it started?
Yeah, it started very chaotically, right? With the sort of very sudden resignation of the prime minister, and a big hustle to see who would get into the race. But I think one of the big things that has changed is just what the prize is at the end of this. Prior we were talking about a Liberal Party that looked headed for a real bad general election defeat, putting them into third or maybe even fourth place in the House of Commons, losing 100 plus seats. It was going to be a bad result. Now, the Conservatives are still ahead in polling, but the race seems to be much tighter. The Liberals have moved, sort of on average about 10 percentage points up. They've made a whole bunch of regions of the country more competitive. There are a bunch of MPs who would probably still hold on to their seats now. So a lot has changed in that time. And I think that has really changed the dynamic of the race in a lot of ways.
It's changed because of Trump, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, Donald Trump has changed what Canadians are talking about politically. There's a lot less conversation about some of the affordability issues and some of the economic issues that were front and center. Pierre Poilievre is not getting a carbon tax election. That's what he was hoping for. And so instead, these are bigger issues. These are issues about Canada's place vis-a-vis the U.S. and these sort of these attacks on us from the outside.
I heard analysis over the weekend of Poilievre's Canada First rally, and one of the analysts was saying they didn't see his message as a pivot. They thought it was a reframing. Is that fair comment, or do you think this is a pivot on the part of the Conservatives? And obviously, we should let listeners know what was said here.
Yeah, so I mean, I would agree that it was not a pivot. It was not a complete change. The Conservatives are still promising to axe the carbon tax. They're still promising to fight crime and fix the budget and those sorts of things. But all of what they talk about now is framed in relation to that U.S.-Canada relationship. So just to pick one example, the Conservatives have been talking for years about repealing the Liberals' environmental legislation that they view as anti-pipeline legislation. When they talk about it now, they talk about this sort of imperative of doing that so that there is a way to combat U.S. trade sanctions and an ability to move Canada products to market even away from the U.S. So it's the same policies, but it's maybe for a different motivation now.
Mm-hmm. Let's end by talking about these debates next week in English and French. What will you be? They're both in Montreal. What will you be looking for, and what do you think the candidates in the race need to push forward from their platforms to get it done?
Yeah, so I think, from the candidates, we're going to see, this is the first opportunity really for people to see them more broadly. So I think their French is going to be really important. I think that's going to be a big open question. Only one of the candidates is from Quebec, Frank Baylis. The other candidates mostly have solid French, but it is not their first language, and sometimes that shows. The other, I think, big question coming out of the debate is going to be Mark Carney. He's sort of become perceived as the front runner. Hard to know for sure without real polling, but I think that's fairly safe to say. And as he says in every speech he gives, he's not a politician. So we've never seen him on a debate stage before. So what does that look like? What does it sound like? How does he do? How does he do with attacks from opponents? Because Liberals want to win. And so the question, if he doesn't fare well in this debate, the question is going to be, how will he fare in a debate against Pierre Poilievre?
Lots to be watching for, Ryan. Thank you very much for the analysis.
All right, thank you.
That's a Ryan Tumilty, political reporter with the Toronto Star.